Today we're going to talk about why prospecting and cold prospecting is the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur, business owner, or salesperson. My name is Michael Barive, and I was able to build a team of 150 plus sales guys that were out there doing cold prospecting, door to door, store to store, floor to floor. We were able to do that and build a massive company, all because we were able to go and prospect with a cold market. So it's very simple. Very simple. Why do I love prospecting? Why do I love the act of prospecting cold people? Very simple. Because if you want to make top dog money, if you want to make a lot of money, you have to understand that prospecting is where you need to play. Most people think that you get paid for closing the deal, but in reality, you get paid for prospecting. Prospecting is what nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to cold call. Nobody wants to do cold emails. Nobody wants to go out there and knock on doors. Nobody wants to do that. But guess what? Because nobody wants to do that, there's a massive opportunity. I've always looked at what do people not want to do? And I want to find my place where I can add value to them and do it for them, right? That's what a business owner does. A business owner doesn't want to do what everyone else does. A business owner and an entrepreneur is like, wait a minute, the market doesn't want this? The market wants to change and they want to stay away from pain? Guess what? Let's kind of go dive into that and make it easier for the customer, make it easier for someone else. And that's where the money comes from, right? A lot of companies that paid us millions of dollars all because they did not want to do the work. They don't want to prospect. They don't want to find the customers. They don't want to close those deals. So guess what? They pay companies like us. So it's very simple to understand that if nobody wants to do it, that's where the money's at. If you're looking for more money, find ways to do things that nobody wants to do. For example, there's a lot of, if you look at waste management, it's a successful garbage company. Who the hell wants to clean up garbage? Think about that. And they have built themselves a billion-dollar business, multiple billions, because they were able to go out into the marketplace and do shit, no pun intended, that nobody wanted to do, right? So it's very important to understand. If nobody wants to do it, there's a lot of money in there, okay? Number two, why I love prospecting and cold prospecting, right? When I say cold prospecting, they don't know you, you don't know them. It's either door to door, store to store, floor to floor, email, cold call, knocking, it doesn't matter. Business to business, doesn't matter. They don't know you, you don't know them, okay? And it's tough. And the reason why I like doing it is because it builds your tolerance for pain. See, if you want to become successful at anything, right? You want to become a professional boxer, a Muay Thai fighter, you want to become an MMA professional, whatever it may be, you got to get good at getting punched in the face. Can you imagine being a MMA fighter and you're like, you cannot get hit in the face? You have a weak jawline? Like, can you imagine that? How can you win in the top levels of success if you're not willing to get punched in the face? I'm not saying you need to get punched all the time, but if the punch comes, you can withstand that pain. If the punch comes, you're not going to get knocked out. Like this weekend we saw in MMA, I mean, listen, there's some amazing fighters we saw, and guess what? They got knocked the fuck out, right? Now, they got crazy jaws, you know, but still, think about that. You want to be the guy that's able to tolerate the pain. Can you tolerate the pain? Can you tolerate the bullshit? And if you cannot go out there and do prospecting and do cold prospecting, you're not meant to be a business owner. Because the first couple of years of being an entrepreneur, startup, or co-founder, or even a founder, it's so much prospecting needs to get done because who are you going to pay to do it? No one's going to do it. You got to go do it. If you want to sell a hat, let's say for example you want to sell this hat, you got to go out there and talk to people that don't know about your brand and say, hey, I got this brand new hat. I got this brand new name. I got this company. Boom, boom, boom. You got to start doing your shit. It's not easy, but you got to do it. Otherwise, nobody will know that you exist, right? So, and you might say, well, I'm going to do ads. Well, ads cost money. What if you don't have money, right? What if you're starting up? You got to figure out a way to do it. So build tolerance for pain. Next, I love doing the boring work. And I'll explain to you what that means. The boring work is where the money is being made. Boring is where you become successful. Boring is where you create wins. It's the boring work to show up 3 times a week to the gym and practice your jabs, your hooks, your jabs, your crosses. It's very boring to keep doing it over and over and over again. But once you get good at the boring shit, then you can do the fun shit, get into the ring and start knocking people out, right? It's very important to understand that, but most people want to do the fun shit. They want to show up and be a champion in the ring. Nobody cares about you being the champion. You gotta fight in the darkness. You gotta fight when no one's looking. You gotta be bored. You gotta do the boring shit. And the boring shit is prospecting. The boring shit is how do I communicate with someone that doesn't know who I am, doesn't know what I want. He comes to my door, step away, all that rejection, all that bullshit. Can you go through the boring stuff? And by the way, it's boring because you're going to do the same thing day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, sometimes even year in and year out. And that's the boring shit that gets you successful. It's not the fun stuff that gets you successful. The fun stuff comes after. It's the boring shit. Ask any professional at any level of any industry, athlete, military, it doesn't matter, business, they all do the boring shit first. The boring shit is what gets you to the fun shit. And you got to get good at that, right? Next, when you prospect it actually gets you to be consistent in closing deals. See, a lot of times you have these guys that are like, oh, I don't like doing prospecting. Just give me some presentations. Give me some demos. Listen, You want to be consistent and you don't want to ever depend on your income going up and down. You do the prospecting, you do the hunting, and you do the closing. I don't care how amazing you are. Go do prospect and closing, you'll see what happens to you. Consistent piston wins the game. Consistent piston wins the game. It's the guy who's consistently going out there and hunting and hunting and hunting, and then closing, hunting, then closing, hunting, then closing. That's the guy who wins because he's able to be consistent. And what that does in return, which is the next thing, it gets you hungry. It gets you hungry. When you get punched in the face, when you get slapped in the face, it gets you even more hungrier. It's hard to be hungry when all you're doing is showing up to live presentations. I know you're a top-tier closer. I understand that. But sometimes you got to get back into the grind and learn a little bit of that hunger. Build that fire inside of you. If you see your closing rate going down a little bit, go out there and hunt a little bit more. You'll see what happens. You get more hungry. You want to win again. It creates that fire inside of you, right? And the last but not least, why I love prospecting and doing cold prospecting, you get really good at beating your competitors when you know what's going on in the marketplace. As an entrepreneur, when was the last time you went into the market and seen what your guys are doing? As an entrepreneur, when was the last time you went on the doors or on the phones or listened to what the customers are complaining about? Because most of the complaints and the bullshit that you need to change in your business comes from your customers, right? Are you listening to what the customers are saying? Are you hearing what your sales guys are going through? The challenges, the ups and downs. Because sometimes when you get so big in a company, you become a CEO all of a sudden. You think you're on top shit that you don't have to go out there and kind of see what your guys are going through. The other day, I went out with some of my guys to see what are their challenges, what are their issues. Like, changes, add this, add that. It's very important to do so to see the bigger picture because sometimes being on the top, from the aerial view, you miss those small little details. You miss those details. So I like prospecting because guess what? It gets me hungry again, and then on top of that, it gets me to be my competitors, right? Because I can find out what's going on in the lower levels of what's going on. So I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And as you guys know, we come at you every single day, spitting fire, spitting the truth. So I need you guys to share the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video.